Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of the Artelize Podcast. And it's my uttermost pleasure today to have as a guest the amazing bass opera singer, Adolfo Corrado. Welcome, Adolfo. Thank you so much for joining us.
Hello, everyone, dear friends of Artelize. I'm very glad to be here with you all.
Thank you so much. And we're so glad to have you. So, Adolfo, I'm going to give a little introduction about your amazing career, which is at the same time well established already, despite the fact you're so young, but also you're becoming even bigger. I just want to mention that you have been nominated the BBC Cardiff Singer of the World 2023, which is a great honor. And by the way, I invite everybody to check Adolfo's performances from that event because they're absolutely mind-blowing. And you were born in 1994, so quite young, Adolfo. Lucky you.
No, not so young.
Well, for a bass, that's extremely young, right? And
Yes,
yet you have this full instrument already. It's amazing. So you trained theatrically at Augusto Zucchi's School of Theater and Film Acting in Rome. You perfected at Teatro del Maggio Musicale Fiorentino as a young artist project under the guidance of Gianni Tangucci. And you also won very prestigious competitions. In 2021, the Del Monte competition, you, thanks to that, you performed the role of Don Pasquale. And the 2022 edition of Aslico competition, winning the role of Leporello of Don Giovanni. Such a great role, yes. Your most relevant engagement have seen you perform in the major theaters in Italy and abroad, Teatro Petruzzelli, Arena di Verona, Teatro alla Scala, Teatro La Fenice of Venice, Salzburg Festspiele, Palau delle Arts, Reina Sofia, Festival della Valle dell'Itria and Martina Franca. But let us know a little bit more about you, and also perhaps a curiosity that you would like to share with Artelize especially.
Yes. Maybe I can begin with my passion by my second, but it's also the first passion beside the singing is to cook, because I work in the restaurant industry for over 10 years before to be a professional singer. And although I'm happy to have moved on, my passion for cooking is still very strong, especially for the traditional dishes and the flavors of the Mediterranean culture, including, of course, Italian, but also Greek and Middle Eastern cuisine. Doing this job for me is the best solution, because when I travel for work during productions, I love discovering the local flavors wherever I am. And I enjoy learning about them, the food through their history, and then recreating them at home. I like to learn in order to preserve. I'm not an innovator in food things. I don't try to create new variations. But when it comes from the traditional dishes.
You're from Lecce.
Yes.
Okay. So you know what you're talking
from the very
about
south,
because you're great with food. And did you start singing at the restaurant?
My career began by chance. I got into the world of music at the age of 22. Before that, I had never sung, never. I had always done theater, but I had never tried to use my voice as an instrument to express myself. But one day, a singer from my hometown asked me if I want to be part of a musical that was the Beauty and the Beast. Of course, I was the beauty. Of course. And I say yes, unconsciously, because I had never sung before. We did it, and it was great. And from there, I began curious about this strange instrument that is the voice. It's so strange. After that, I started singing a bit as a crooner. I sang Frank Sinatra, Dean Martin, Bing Crosby, all these fantastic steps, always as a self-trained singer. Then, even more intrigued, I went to take a lesson from a singer who was also an opera singer, and she believed that my voice could perform better in opera. We gave it a try, and from there I fell in love with it. It's a magic.
Why is that so intriguing and special?
Opera is including all the arts, but like in other field of life, if you are made for something specific, you can feel it And when I enter for the first time in the conservatoire, I feel like there was my place, my world. I don't know how to explain, but it's a vocation. I think when something is for you, all become clear. All, and then of course you have to put everything of your soul, everything in your heart, everything that you have in what you love.
Thank you so much for sharing this. And just quickly on the other passion. So what is your favorite dish to cook if you have one?
Why I have to choose? I can have all.
That's a good answer. Yes, we agree.
Yeah, I like to cook because for me it's something deep. I enjoy cooking because I firmly believe that through homemade and crafted food, you can take care of the people you love. Through your hands, you can transfer energy and feelings into the food, which will then become nourishment for someone else. So it is important.
Absolutely. And so do you like to cook for your fellow colleagues sometimes when you're in a
Yes.
production?
Yes.
Yeah.
Yes, I often cook something traditional of my homeland, like pasticciotti leccesi. I don't know if you know it.
I don't know if I should say unfortunately or fortunately. I would say both because I also love to eat. So obviously that's unfortunately, but fortunately because they're delicious.
Yeah. I love to cook when I have the possibility. It's a good thing to do for me.
Yeah. And I'm sure they're also very happy about that, right? And you
Yes,
get a lot of
I am.
friends.
Yeah, it's the best. It's the best way to be loved.
That is so true. Okay, but let's dive into a bit more specific questions. You know, it is interesting to have an artistic career nowadays after those major events that have happened, like the pandemic, but also the
Yeah.
advent of a massive amount of technology.
Hmm.
And, you know, Artelize is bringing technology to the industry of the performing arts, which it has been probably the last utilizing the newest technology. We have noticed that there is a massive change. And I wanted to ask you from your perspective, what do you think has changed in the relationship between the artist and the audience now, as opposed to the great artists of the past and their audience?
Let's start with saying that the advent of social media has changed these dynamics, these relationships, both positively and negatively, for both the listener and the artist, of course. I think positive for the listener if we consider the fact that they can have access to artistic material at any time, in any place. And this is a great step forward as it removes a significant barrier, having to go to the theater at a specific time to enjoy the performance. For the artist, it can certainly be a good way to showcase themselves to a wider audience who enjoys this kind of performance and can also feel a greater sense of the audience affections. There is the listener and the singer. You can contact whenever you want. So it's a direct, but can be negative. However, if we consider that, unfortunately, social media often becomes a place where an enormous amount of gratuitous cruelty is unleashed. And sadly, everyone thinks they can say whatever they want without considering or showing any sensitivity towards the person on the side of the screen, interacting outside of a purely artistic context.
This closeness, which can make you feel the affection more than before. But at the same
Yeah.
time, if somebody is mean or nasty, they can also do that. Obviously, that can hurt a lot.
Yes. You can find every kind of person, like in a square, no? You can walk through a square. You can find from the kind people to the bad people, no? And this is amplified on social media. Sometimes this can result in actual harassment and defamation. And I can share what happens to an artist when they receive this gratuitous insult that can instill a very strong sense of insecurity. This is especially because the performances that are often found on various platforms are not always delivered at the artist's best, particularly without their supervision or under optimal condition. You can often come across illegal recordings or streaming that somehow circulate and reach the most unimaginable places, where perhaps an artist is not having their best night. Maybe he's under significant stress or is in a situation that doesn't allow them to perform under ideal condition. And the listener who comes across in this material feels entitled to judge without filters.
Exactly.
And they do that as if they were not speaking to a human being with feelings or emotion, and feels compelled to say any cruel thing that comes to mind. This can provoke insecurity, frustration in the artist. I don't know, this lack of tact, this inability to empathize with the person on the other side. This is a problem of our times in all fields of
Yes, that happens so much in sports as well. You're absolutely right. All
Yeah.
fields.
Yes, and it's like as if all human qualities are nullified behind a screen. I don't understand this kind of things. It's like we all feel obliged to express an opinion, and we believe we know everything about any subject. And I believe that social media has erased the respect for expertise meaning. And, I only speak about what I have knowledge of. I think this is a major downside of social media.
Do you believe there is a healthy way for an artist, for example, of your kind, to interact with the audience? And also, do you think it's important to have an active social media presence to get noticed by the employers as well? So artistic directors, managers, and so on.
Yes, I think that the social media can be a better place if the social media can guarantee more mediation. I know it's a difficult work, I can imagine, and it's also a culture fact. You can have a great number of moderators, but it's an educational thing. I think nowadays is a little bit a problem.
And so, but do you think using social media is important to get noticed in your job?
Yes.
Because there are some artists that are a little bit older than you are, for example, that really have an approach that is of total refusal. What is your take on that?
From my point of view, I can say what is my relationship with the social media first, because I try to be fairly present. I realize that maintaining a constant presence to brings benefits in terms of visibility on any other aspect requires a significant amount of energy and time. I am active on major social media platforms like Facebook and Instagram, but I use them in a somewhat particular way, in my personal way. Primarily, I use them for work purpose and also as a sort of agenda. So after a production, I provide a summary of the experience, including any available material like photos, videos, or other contents. I add reviews and my own thoughts. But beyond that, there's nothing more on my social media channels. I use them to keep those interested updated and as a personal record, nothing more. I am, however, active daily with social media stories. I think this aspect is lighter and less demanding. But if you ask me whether I follow a specific editorial plan, no. I'm not capable of doing that, and maybe it would be helpful to have someone manage it for me. But for now, I feel it works well as it is. This is my relationship with social media. I have to say that I find social media to be, of course, a tremendous opportunity, both for promoting and for expressing oneself, more than what a single performance can offer, of course. However, I must be honest, I also fear it a bit, because I like having a private sphere that can remain such in order to preserve the value I place on the things I care about. Not sharing and keeping it private is for me a great quality. But certainly in the post-pandemic era, social media has seen a tremendous increase because, of course, during the pandemic, it was our only window to the world, and allowed us to stay connected with the others and helped us to go a bit less insane.
For an artist like you with an international career, literally, because you're all over the places, don't you feel like perhaps once you find your way, which is your personal way of handling the social media, so you feel safe enough, you're sharing only what you want, it's mostly professional, sometimes a little bit more personal, but never exposing your private sphere, as you were saying. Don't you feel that it's essential, though, to make sure that you can maintain that visibility and that presence somehow, being such an international artist? So it's easier basically to reach out the people that you have worked with in the United States, UK, or whatever other part of the world?
I think it's a little bit difficult to explain this because we are a shape of art different because we are live performing arts. It's not cinema or television. So you can see what you want on the social media, of course, but we express ourselves live on the stage. Of course, the social media also acts as an accelerator in some ways. So yes, many careers can be consolidated or boosted with the help of social media, or conversely, it can also penalize someone. However, I believe, but I also don't believe that social media can create real opportunities, especially in the performing arts, in live performing arts, because I think that in this field, without a foundational quality or genuine talent, I don't think social media alone can change that, can change something. Social media, of course, helps to make what is already good appear even better, certainly. It can also do the opposite. But I believe that in the performing arts, there is still a baseline of meritocracy, because if there is no quality, it won't work live. We perform live, so we need to deliver what live performance offers and promises. And in this regard, social media can't help us. There are certainly cases where social media has created real phenomena, turning individuals into stars, including the field of opera, of course. Artistic realities that might not have otherwise managed to express themselves, find their place, and reach certain levels have benefited from this. Of course, there are. In these instances, I can say that social media can perform such wonders, but I believe these are very rare occurrences.
So what
Um,
about the fact that, especially post-pandemic, there has been a big problem with bringing back the audience into the concert hall or in theaters? And we know that, for example, this is a major struggle for the arts organization right now to not only consolidate their audience, but also expand that, especially when it comes to engaging new generations. How do you see that? Because in new segments of audience, perhaps younger generations, don't you think that could be actually a good way and a new way for the artists to help in bringing back or in bringing new people to the shows?
Yes, I think that social media can be a great resource for classical performing arts, because it's not true that young people have not interested to the opera or other classic forms of arts. I think there is not possibility to access for the first time, because I think young people have not the possibility to go to the opera and see what opera can offer. I think always when a person see the opera for the first time, maybe not the really first time, because the first time is always a bit strange, especially if you go to see a dramatic opera. I think to start you need the opera buffa. But the second and the third is surely possible to not fall in love with it. But you have to go. You have to be able to go to the opera or in theater, or there is a culture fact. I think I'm optimistic and perhaps naive, but I believe that live performing arts cannot be replaced at all, because they offer something different that cannot be artificially replicated.
Absolutely. And
But
do you foresee that technology can help this aspect particularly? So perhaps the artist with their presence online can get the interest of these new people, and perhaps also in collaboration with arts organizations. Sometimes I see interviews or, just artists that talk about the character they're about to perform, that stimulate interest for those people that perhaps have never attended a show before. So
yes, I think that this is the duty of the social media for the arts. They can provide more precise information about artistic form. All the platform can be like a bridge for the audience, for the theaters, to bring more new audience, because they can show something more. The streaming, the recorded shows can help us bring new people.
Absolutely. So the experience will never end, obviously. It's all the preparation around or the discovery process that can be helped and boosted by technology. And I think that's a very interesting aspect. So, what would you advise a young upcoming artist or just somebody that wants to start an artistic career? What would be the best suggestions that you feel would be important to share?
I think that I believe that magic happens. I don't believe that those who say that everything is black in this world, especially in the opera. Certainly, there are 1,001 reasons to think otherwise. That's true. But I firmly believe that passion, determination, and healthy ambition can work miracles. Always keep the goal in mind and never let go of it. Of course, you also need to have a good self-criticism to recognize the sign that most of the time we tend to underestimate or overestimate. But once that's done, you just have to wait for what I call green light. If you use it wisely, what comes after will always work in your favor. You have to work hard to be ready and prepared for the opportunity that will come. I'm sure of this because it's my life. I think this can work if you firmly believe it.
So first of all is having the goal very clear in your mind, and that of course you're passionate about, and therefore you have determination, you work hard for it, but it's a very precise focus, I understand, that you never give up.
Yes, especially the first time, because of course, also for me, the first years is difficult. Like most people who pursue a dream, the early years were very difficult because it was a continuous sacrifice. I had to do various jobs. I always worked to be self-sufficient, but being able to study, work, and try to break into another career while working in a different field is not easy. I know very well this. Often doing two jobs at the same time. So the first years are very hard. This is true, I think.
Yeah.
But if you keep in mind the goal, if you remember always what are you doing and what you want to do in the future, I think there is no reason to fail.
Right. Beautiful. And you were mentioning before how in the interaction with people on social media, you can, of course, come across good people, nice people, and less nice people, right? But how is this important also in real life to surround yourself with, a support system, we could call it, of people that also believe in you and somehow they help you thrive in this very beautiful but also extremely tough journey. So do you believe it is important to be together with supportive people?
Yes, I think that supporting people is a real gift, but the real supporting people, the one who is sincere and not false, the supporting people is a very resource. But I think that the most important key to grow up is yourself, because if you have self-criticism, a good and healthy self-criticism, you can follow your goal. You can listen what the other have to give to you, but you are always in your point of view. Of course, you have to have a genuine self-criticism. This is not easy, but I think that you know what your instrument or your voice needs, because I firmly believe that our body knows what we need. If we can listen ourselves, our body, our voice in a deep way, I think the answer to all the questions are in us.
So exactly, listen guys and find the answer, the most important answer, because then it will allow you to make choices.
The other can imagine, can offer you an help way to see different point of view, but the real thing is in you.
Absolutely. Thank you so much, Adolfo. And so where will we see you next?
We can see each other around Europe, but also for our American friends in Minnesota. I will be in Minnesota for a Turandot.
Fantastic.
In Minneapolis with the Minnesota Orchestra. This will be in May 2025. But now in Rouen in France for the AIDA, and next work would be the Verdi Requiem in Milano, and then Norma in Toulouse in France, Trovatore in Valencia. If you want to come and see my Instagram page.
Absolutely. Yes. Check out the stunning voice of Adolfo and his presence on stage, because it's really quite something. I think you have a lot of fun on stage, right? And that's why it's so beautiful to
Yes.
watch you. That's unique, amazing to witness.
Thank you.
There are so many
Yes,
preoccupied
I have
people.
a lot of fun. Yes,
Yeah. That's beautiful. We will be cheering for you. Congratulations, Adolfo. Thank you so
Thank you so
much for your time.
Thank
And hopefully we will have you again as a guest on Artelize. I also hope that we will get together to try and taste some nice recipe from the Mediterranean cuisine.
You're welcome. You all are welcome.
Fantastic. It's going to be a huge gathering. Thank you so much, Adolfo.
Thank you. Thank you to Artelize, and see you all on theater and also off theater. Take care.